Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here on a Saturday morning. My name is Navneet Bala and I'm the New Jersey Policy and Outreach Coordinator for South Asian Americans Leading Together. As you may know, SAALT is a national non-profit organization and we represent the interests of the South Asian community locally as well as nationally. In New Jersey, SAALT is having this hearing today because we think it's really important to hear community voices and share community perspectives and experiences as we approach the 9/11 anniversary. The 9/11 tragedy has impacted millions of people in the country and also particularly in New Jersey, the state. Many families have lost their loved ones and today we think of them and remember them as we mark the 9/11 anniversary. Before we proceed any further, I'd like to thank particularly St. Peter's College and Sodexo for their generous support and for hosting this event today. I'd also like to acknowledge all our co-sponsors. As you may have noted, the agenda is a long list of co-sponsors and I won't have time to list everyone, but we thank every single one who has supported this event today and we appreciate your support. I'd also like to acknowledge all the elected officials who are present here today. Jersey City Councilwoman Nydia Lopez, Jersey City Board of Education Chairman Sterling Waterman, Teaneck Mayor Mohammed Hamiduddin, Hoboken City Council President Ravi Bala, Passaic Board of Education Commissioner Salim Patel, Jersey City Democratic Committee Person Rami Eid, Jersey City Democratic Committee Person Rekha Nadwani, and Jersey City Board of Education member Susan Mack. Thank you so much all for being here. All year long, SAALT has asked three questions. Where are we as a country 10 years after September 11? How have certain communities, particularly within the South Asian community, the Muslim community, the Sikh community, the Hindu community, the Sikhs and Arab Americans, how have all of us been impacted in the past decade? And finally, how do we all intend to move forward and how can we move forward together to address some of the issues that have impacted us? This morning, we're hoping to address some of these issues and questions collectively. I also wanted to share some of the positive examples of public officials recently, right here in New Jersey, who have taken an official stance on issues such as anti-bias and anti-bullying. Our Mayor, Mohammed Hamiduddin in Teaneck, along with the City Council there, passed an anti-bias resolution in Teaneck, which was presented by SAALT, and we really commend you for taking a stance and addressing the issue. Similarly in Passaic, Commissioner Salim Patel and the Board of Education there, literally 2 days ago I believe, passed the anti-bullying resolution unanimously, which was presented by SAALT, and that was passed, and to address the issues of bullying post 9/11. So we commend you for that and thank you. We've received letters of support from Senator Menendez and Senator Lautenberg, and Senator Menendez has actually specifically supported and endorsed this particular anti-bias resolution and upheld the principles of the resolution, so we thank both of them for that. We hope today that we can share perspectives and learn from each other and address some of the issues that we're going to hear from our different panelists and community members. And we hope that we're able to embrace the diversity that we see not only in Jersey City, but in New Jersey as a whole. On that note, I will turn to our guest speaker And I have the pleasure of introducing Chairman Sterling Waterman, who is the President of the Board of Education in Jersey City, who will be giving welcoming remarks before we move on to the panelists. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to thank Ms. Bala and SAALT for inviting me today to speak, give a few words. Also want to thank St. Peter's for hosting this event. And again, having this event in Jersey City, I understand this has been going on for a while, these events, but I'm glad that we're able to do that in Jersey City, being that Jersey City is one of the most ethnically diversified places in the Northeast region, and also here in Ward C. I happen to reside in Ward C, and Mrs. Lopez is, as councilwoman, is a ward. And I think this ward here is the biggest ethnic diversified ward we have in Jersey City. So I think this is apropos to host it right here in Jersey City and right here in this particular ward. And I'm happy to be here for that reason. As President of the Board of Education, of course, we have over 170 languages spoken in our schools. Obviously, that means we have quite a few different people. And when you have a situation like that, you have a tendency for a lot of misunderstandings. And we have our share. We have our share. It's not an easy task to address. We recently had our own anti-bullying event, huge event. A few months ago, we addressed quite a few issues then, not just in our schools, obviously, because a lot of those things permeate and go out of the schools into the community. But it's important, it's very important that everyone comes to work together, not just in the schools, but in the city as a whole, and cities across the nation. And I'm happy to say that Jersey City is doing their part. Of course, organizations like SAALT and other organizations within Jersey City, we're definitely doing our part in our schools and in the city as a whole. As the board president, I've always tried to encourage Dr. Epps, the superintendent, to make sure we have proper representation as much as we can, obviously, for all the various different ethnic groups in Jersey City. Again, we have quite a few. Jersey City has changed, just like the rest of the nation, tremendously in the last few years. And it's important that we have representation for that. I think the last Board of Ed election had shown that. Nabil Youssef, my friend over there, he ran. A few other people that didn't look like the normal people who ran in this past election. I think that's needed in not just Jersey City, but everywhere else. So, it's important to be able to, have representation and make sure everyone is accounted for. Now, this anti-bullying thing that we've done, and of course anti-bias, this is a real situation. And people tend to think that, oh, well, it doesn't happen in my neighborhood. But this is a real situation. And of course, 9/11 comes around. The closer we get to it, everyone needs to understand that the tendency for issues to arise specifically on that day or on or around that day are there. And it happens in our schools, it happens in our cities. And if we don't bring attention to this matter, it's only going to get worse, despite the fact that this is going on the 10th year anniversary. This is ridiculous. And again, thank SAALT for addressing this issue, or having forums like this to address this issue. And again, bringing everyone from the community, schools, different areas of government, different walks of life together to understand that this is a serious issue even now. And we all must do our part. And I'm happy to say again that as the representative of the Board of Education, and of course, this particular ward, being a community member of this ward, we are doing our part. So thank you very much again to SAALT for inviting me, for hosting this event in St. Peter's and in Jersey City. I hope to see you guys in the near future, working together to make this a better city and a better nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waterman, for your remarks. Before we get started, I think I'll take a brief moment just to explain the format of today's hearing. So we have 3 panels. Each panel will speak for around 15 minutes. We'll start, so the three panels are, the first one is the community members panel, which you see before us right here. The community members will relay their personal experiences and share their personal stories on issues of bias and discrimination. And then the second panel, which is a panel of community advocates and policy experts, will address those issues and provide policy recommendations. And then the final panel, the third one, would be the panel of policymakers and government representatives who will provide their insight on the issues and how they've been involved or can be involved in addressing some of those issues in their elected official capacity or capacity as a government representative. Of course, most importantly, we are interested in hearing from all of you. So we are hoping that everyone respects the time and all panelists speak for the time allocated. And after the three panels have spoken, we will open it up for Q&A. And we really want it to be an interactive discussion. So by all means, use that time. We have ample time for questions and answers, and all three panels will be right here. All the panelists will be here to address any questions that you raise or any thoughts or comments that you may have. Few housekeeping points. Please do switch off your cell phones if you haven't already done so. The registration desk was right at the front. I hope everyone managed to sign up so we can stay connected. The restrooms through the double doors on the right. We're videotaping today, so please sign the video release forms at the registration table. We also have our SAALT staff available to answer any questions of Sean Koja is our communications manager, right there from DC, and then we have a couple more staff who are helping out as well, right there. Okay, on that note, I think we should get started. I'm very eager to hear from the community members, as I'm sure you are too. Let me start with panel number one, which is our community members right here. First, we have Mr. Hansi Bindra, who will be addressing the issue of discrimination and profiling and talking about his experience. Then we have Mr. Yasser Abdul Qadir, who will be speaking on the issue of religious freedom and speaking about what happened in Bridgewater Mosque and the Al-Falah Center. Then we have, from Manavi, we have Vinita Javeri, who is going to relay a case of on behalf of a domestic violence survivor and speak about immigration enforcement post 9/11 and the impact on our community. And finally, we have Mr. Rajinder Singh Khalsa, who will be talking about his personal experience on the issue of hate crimes. So I'll start and hand over the floor to Mr. Hansi Bindra so he can relay his notes.
I'm Hansi Bindra. Around almost 9 years ago, this was November of 2002, a year and a few months after 9/11. I was flying like most of us do for work and other things, and this time it was Thanksgiving, so I was going visiting friends out in Ohio, and took a flight from here, New Jersey, flew out to Cincinnati, no problems. Cincinnati, I had a little puddle jumper flight from there to Dayton, Ohio, which was delayed by a few hours or whatever. So I've already cleared security here, no problem with the TSA. Walking into the plane, it's probably what, puddle jumper, 15, 20 people in the plane. Walking into the plane, everyone's getting a greeting, happy Thanksgiving, welcome aboard. I walk in, there's no greeting, no problem. I go take my seat. Start reading a magazine. Plane's still on the ground. Being a computer nerd, I was reading some PC magazine or something. And suddenly the flight attendant comes to me and says, people like you from the Middle East should not be flying. Okay, that was pretty nice. You're going to be trouble on the flight, and I'm going to have people take care of that. That's even better. I decided I'm going to speak back and said, first of all, I'm not from the Middle East, not that it makes any difference. I'm actually from India. And what wrong did I do? She didn't want to listen. She said, I'm talking to the captain of the plane. That's what I'm going to do. I said, no problem. There's nothing I can do about it. If she wants to talk to the captain, she'll talk to the captain. So obviously I'm thinking, because I've well read and things after 9/11, all the stuff that has happened to the community, that I'm in some sort of trouble and there's something waiting for me on either at the Cincinnati airport or if we take off on the other side when we land. Flight takes off. I'm shaking like a leaf, sweating, whatever, who cares? She's doing her thing, I can hear her speak to the captain, whatever, but I obviously can't leave my seat. Flight reaches Dayton, Ohio. I'm expecting agents to receive me now at this point, or someone to come from somewhere to do something to me. I get out of the plane, like everyone else, and suddenly 3 people approach me, fellow passengers. And they said, you don't know what she came and told us at the back of the plane. She had singled you out from the time you walked in. She had told us on her instructions to come and jump me, like just come and get over me if I were to stand up or do anything, because I was trouble, apparently. People like me shouldn't be flying, right? These guys were so nice that they came up and gave me the cards and said, you need to do something about this. That flight attendant was crazy. That's the exact phrase. And I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I don't even know what else can happen. This is as soon as getting out of the plane, you've gone down the steps. I don't even know what's going to happen when I move in and pick up my bags. Maybe there's police officers waiting or whatever, but okay. One of them actually says, I grew up with a Sikh like you in Ohio. That's how I know you're not, first you said you're not Muslim, that's how I know that. Okay, he was a little more thinking, okay, I'm not Muslim, so I probably won't cause a problem. Okay. The other gentleman was a professor of Middle Eastern Studies, head of department at the University of Miamisburg in Ohio. He said, I knew you wouldn't cause trouble, and he said, when you were getting a drink at the bar, I was going to ask you if you faced trouble flying after 9/11. And he was sitting on my left side. Third person worked for International Paper. He said, I've traveled all over the world, and I see all kinds of people, and this is ridiculous what happened. So out of what I noticed was there are enough good people out there who are willing to come and stand up for someone. I was the only for lack of another word, I was the only non-Caucasian Americans in the plane, okay? Everyone else had a certain skin color, I had a certain skin color, and I had a turban on my head too. So I guess I was a big minority there. So I land there, and these guys say you need to approach the authorities. So I talked. Nobody came to me, so I decided to go to the Delta thing and said, this is what happened on the flight. They said they can't do anything about it. No problem, they can't do. So I approached the local police at the airport. They said they can't help me with it. Great. Just pick your bags and leave. Okay, pick my bags, picked up my bags and left. After that, I reached out to the community, Sikh Coalition and others amongst, the other groups like SAALT, etc. And finally, it reached a stage, even the ACLU was involved at some point, and then they said they were not going to handle the case for whatever reasons. I didn't get legal representation. And it took 2 years for Delta Airlines to admit that they actually fired the flight attendant, which was the right thing to do, but they could have done that earlier. They could have written something or told, had handled this professionally. And the way I looked at it was, if I didn't have those 3 gentlemen who came forward, this would be another case which goes probably every day, which happens probably at the gas stations or whatever else, that would just go under the rug. They'll be, oh, you're a turban guy, you're speaking about it, okay, he said, she said, right? Nobody else heard about it. The impact on me, I couldn't believe for that 35 minutes flight, how I went through it, and just the shaking, the nervousness and stuff, knowing what else will come on the other side. The fact nothing came on the other side was a big plus, but that defeated the whole, just that thing of being singled out because of what I wear and what I'm perceived to be was something which sticks with me till now. When I'm going in a plane now, I'm assuming something's going to happen. And I'm putting this in the light because I was traveling a few years back and they announced my name in the plane. I thought, shit, I'm in trouble again. Pardon my language, I'm in trouble again. Just happened to want to give me a free upgrade. Just happened. Now this is a different airline. I don't fly Delta anymore. Okay. But the case got settled 2 years later. It took that long for people to admit wrongdoing. And a part of the settlement was they did get training, that employees did get training, and I hope that training has gone in their heads and they realize that you can't single out people because of what they look like, what their names are like, and so on. So that was my experience from almost 9 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bindra, for sharing those remarks. Before we go to, before we hear the second panelist, I've just been told that somebody on the panel has their cell phone and that's causing problems with the audio. So can you switch it off? Anyone here? I think they're having trouble picking up audio at the end.
Sure.
Okay.
I had it out to you because the timer.
Yes, you don't have to worry about the timer because our fantastic Mackenzie over here at the front, which applies to all the panelists, right here, Mackenzie, you can put your hand up, will alert people to their time frame so you don't have to worry about it.
Thank you.
And I saw that she was very good at flagging that up. So, okay, now we will hear from Mr. Yasser Abdelkader, and he will relay his remarks on the Al-Falah Center and what's been happening now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First, I'd like to thank SAALT, St. Peter's University, and Ms. Bala very much for the invitation. Second, Mr. Omar Mohammadi was supposed to actually be here in my place. Unfortunately, he was sick all night, so he couldn't make it. So thank you very much for accepting me to talk on behalf of Al-Falah. Our story, our experience is actually ongoing right now as we speak. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the issue, but basically in the Bridgewater community, we've been looking for a mosque, a masjid for a very, very long time. We've gone through many properties. We actually got very close to purchasing one, but it didn't work out. Finally, about a little less than a year ago, a banquet hall was offered for sale. It was a perfect location, 7 acres, 200 parking lots, 16,000 square foot. It was absolutely magnificent, perfect for the use. And based on the zoning laws at the time, a house of worship is a permitted use for that location, for that zone, for that area. We actually went to the township around November, and please don't quote me on dates. I'm not reading from a piece of paper, so I don't remember exact dates. But basically, we actually went to them and told them, this is a property on sale, this is what we have in mind. Our purpose is to use it as an Islamic center. No problem, go ahead. They gave us the green light. We had several meetings with them, and their one concern, just to give you an idea, part of the concerns that they have, what color do you plan to paint the building? We don't want it to stand out and be odd in the neighborhood. Neutral color, beige, no problem. There were 2 traffic studies done, one by us and one by the township by professionals, and they came to the conclusion that at its utmost peak, there will be no impact on traffic whatsoever. So we spent over $250,000 in engineering fees and application fees. We went through the proper channels, we brought an engineering firm, we submitted the application for the Islamic Center and the masjid. And the township didn't seem to have any issues. The application was a fully conforming application. What that means is that pretty much the township cannot turn it down. They cannot. It's a valid use for this property in this zone, in this area. They couldn't turn it down. All they can do is, you need to make your driveway wider, you need to remove a couple of trees, you need to make some improvement. The first hearing, January 24th, to discuss the application, which we expected to be a routine hearing and a rubber stamp and an approval, somewhere between 300 and 400 people showed up. And with very hostile, very, very much in opposition. And it was actually the Tea Party got involved, and we announced it, and we urged people to go. the meeting was postponed because the room was flooded. There was no place. There was standing room. They were out in the hallway. So the meeting was postponed, and after the entire room was cleared, we were able later to get a transcript and a recording of what happened at the meeting. After everyone left the meeting, the mayor suggested that I think it's time to revisit our zoning ordinance and our master plan regarding houses of worship. Now, a few months later, they had evaluated their master plan and found out that it was perfectly fine. There's no need to make any changes. And a year and a half prior to that, they actually went through one round of changes to the master plan, and it's a process that took them about a year and a half the first time around. This time around, they fast-tracked. They decided to change the zoning laws. They fast-tracked the changes to do it in about 6 weeks, and they proposed a change to make that road invalid and make, they changed the zoning laws basically to make our application non-conforming anymore, and we have to go to a zoning board and get a variance, an exception to the rule. We spoke with them several times. We requested meetings to work this out. They refused our meetings. They passed the laws. In 6 weeks, what's supposed to take a year and a half. Anyway, I don't want to go over time, but basically, alhamdulillah, we had so much support and so much, as much as, non-support and the opposition, we had support from a lot of organizations. 4 law firms offered to represent us pro bono for free because they felt so strongly about the case. And I don't want to go over time, so thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Qadir, for your remarks. Next, we have Vinita Kapahi from Manavi. She'll be relaying a case study of a domestic violence survivor on their behalf, obviously to preserve their anonymity. And she'll be speaking about how post-9/11 immigration enforcement has become much more stringent, and how post-9/11 immigration policies are having a negative impact on our community, and specifically within the context of domestic violence and how it impacts DV survivors. Thank you.
As Naveed mentioned, I'm Vinitha, and I work with Manavi, which is a New Jersey-based organization that serves South Asian women who are survivors of domestic violence. South Asian women in the United States are especially vulnerable to abuse due to difficulties such as negotiating life in a foreign language, visa structures, and knowledge about customs and laws. The prevailing climate of anti-immigrant sentiment, including heightened post-9/11 immigration enforcement, has the potential to adversely impact domestic violence survivors. Today, I would like to share with you the story of a woman who called Manavi for assistance. To protect her identity, I will call her Sonia. Sonia is a 33-year-old South Asian woman with 2 daughters, ages 13 and 11. Both daughters are U.S. citizens, while Sonia and her husband are undocumented. One daughter is handicapped and needs constant medical care. Despite facing ongoing violence from her husband, Sonia resisted contacting law enforcement out of fear that her husband would be deported. This would leave her alone to care for her children without a source of income. Manavi gets many calls from women who are similarly afraid of calling the police on account of potential immigration consequences. Even women who have valid visas are often afraid of their husband's visas being revoked and potential deportation. Finally, after a violent incident, Sonia called the police as well as Child Protective Services since her husband was also physically violent towards the children. As is often the case, her request for an order of protection was denied since she was unable to communicate her case adequately in English. Further, when ICE came to her home to arrest her husband, Sonia's husband wasn't present. The officers then took her into custody and put her under supervision. They required her to report to ICE every 3 months, whereas the husband went into hiding. Manavi assisted Sonia and her children to move into a shelter. Although Sonia has been in full compliance with ICE, they have placed her in deportation proceedings, complicating matters tremendously. She might lose custody of her children and be forced to return to her home country without them. Alternatively, if she takes them with her, she could face potential kidnapping charges, since both children are U.S. citizens. Upon return to her home country, Sonia will likely face abuse at the hands of her in-laws. In addition, she will have to confront social stigma for having called the police on her husband. All legal avenues to avoid her potential deportation were explored, and all petitions have been denied. The escalated level of post-9/11 enforcement has created a chilling effect on the South Asian community by targeting those who are undocumented, battered, or otherwise vulnerable.
Thank you, Vinita, for your remarks. Now we have Mr. Rajinder Singh Khalsa, who will relay his experience being subjected to a hate crime.
Sat Shri Akal. Truth is God means I am very pleased, all of you, because you accept me here and give me a chance to speak in front of you what happened with me and what's happening with my community here in USA now after the 9/11. Immediately after the 9/11, many people came to my temple and they start stoning my temple. We tell them, this terrorist attack, nothing has to do with this. Why you are doing this? But they attack on us too. But I could not think about, okay, after some time, what is going to happen with me? And like after a few years, after some time, once I was standing in my neighborhood with my friend, and we were parking the car because my friend was requesting me to take tea with me. He owned a restaurant. He stepped out and few people standing outside. They were white American. They asked him, pointing this turban, give me this dirty curtain. He said, this is not curtain and this is not your curtain. This is a religious symbol of my religion. In the meantime, I step out. He said, they are not understanding, please explain him. I tried to explain them. They said, we need you. This is our dirty curtain. We need it back. And they were drinking on the sidewalk, alcohol, smelling bad. And the age, many people, they say they were boy, age of them 22 to 54. One of them was 54. Later, after argument, we tried to explain. Then one of my friends called the 911. One of them walked toward us and came close and said, you call the cop. If cop came here and arrest us, I will come back and going to kill you. Means they want to harass us, want to beat us, but if we call the cop even, they are ready to kill us now. Anyway, we were waiting for the cops, and then somebody came and said, why don't you avoid and go away? We said, this is a good idea. Go away from here. We start walking towards other street, far from that incident place. We walk like few steps and we hear a big noise. People speaking, cursing, coming, one group of people coming from the restaurant. It was a Villa Russo restaurant. They came out and they, what you are doing here? Why you are here? This is our place. Why you guys here? You should go back to your country. Go back to Iran. I said, we are not Iranian. First we came here. We came from India, not from Iran. And what you are thinking, we are not even Muslim. If any Muslim is there, if he is innocent, why you want to do this, behave with the Muslim people if they are innocent? Anyway, they didn't listen us and they start beating. I came in because they were going to drop the turban of my friend. I came in, tried to separate them, and I asked, leave him alone, he is innocent. He came out, they catch me, and they start beating me, they beat me till I go unconscious. They beat me, left me unconscious on the sidewalk, and you know the all effects. Then ambulance took me to the hospital. In the hospital, after that, after the long sickness, still I am sick. And you know, when somebody stopped working in America, I was the first generation coming here in America. So first generation when come here, it's very hard to live here, to survive. And we are the first generation. And when I stop working, all the budget go away. And then I start using credit cards. After, when credit cards start charging a lot of interest rate, then I went to a bank. One of the manager cooperated me. He gave me like $100,000 in loan. I pay all the credit cards and then again had to use a credit card. What to do? Sickness is there. Cannot work like before, pain is in the body, and you know, my community, all the community went in pain. What happening to our priest? Because I am a priest there. So this thing this is the difference after the 9/11, you know, what's happening here. We thought we came to America, this is all culture, living together, and equal rights, but now what we are getting, this is different America we feel, what happened with us. So I think my time is up. So the story is very long, the pain is very deep, but according to the time it's enough. Thank you very much. God bless you all. One thing I want to tell you. When I came here, I saw one lady with the Arabic dress, headdress. She wished me, Salaam alaikum. I give the answer, Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And she said she is not Arab. This was a country where all the dresses were allowed. Every dress is allowed, head dress is allowed. And every language we can speak. But now this is the country, if we speak little Arabic, people watch us like other way. If our dress is little different than somebody else, they deal with us different way. So it should not be there. God bless America. God bless all.
Thank you, Mr. Singh Khalsa, for sharing your remarks. I'm sure the audience will agree with me in saying that some of the personal experiences are harrowing, and I think they have an impact on us hearing these experiences. So thank you so much for taking the time to share that. I think you being here today and sharing your personal stories, as difficult as they are, it's important for all of us to hear, listen, and understand, and more importantly, try to figure out how we can move forward and address them as a community, collectively. South Asian or non-South Asian is something that impacts all of us in this country. And we're all Americans, South Asian Americans, non-South Asian Americans, but impacts all of us, and we need to collectively address these issues. So thank you again for sharing your remarks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
How are you, James?
Now we'll be moving on to our second panel, the community advocates and policy experts who can shed some light on some of the issues that were raised by the community members from a policy standpoint. So I would ask all our panelists to please take a seat before I introduce you. Thank you. So we have to my right Hansdeep Singh, who's a senior staff attorney at United 6. Then we have N.G. Abdul Qadir, who's an attorney and legal fellow with the Institute of Social Policy and Understanding, and also serves on the board of Muslim Women's Lawyers for Human Rights. Then we have Aparna Garg, who works as an Equal Justice Works Fellow at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. And last but not least, we have Mr. James Yusuf Yi, who's the Executive Director of Council of American Islamic Relations in New Jersey, and is also the former US Army Muslim chaplain at Guantanamo Bay. I'm sure you're very familiar with him. So, thank you again for being here, and we'll start with Mr. Hansdeep Singh from United States.
Thank you so much, Nabi. Is this on?
No, this should be working, right? It was working just now.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
First, I just wanted to thank SAALT and all the community who come here today to participate in this community hearing. What I want to discuss is racial religious profiling. What I'm going to be discussing today is racial religious profiling, specifically amongst the Sikh community. We have heard from Mr. Binder about what overt discrimination looks like at airports and in airplanes. And this unfortunately has continued not only with the Sikh community, but also the Muslim community. And I know there was a recent case of Orthodox Jews who were actually praying on the plane, and that was brought, and the plane actually had to make an emergency landing because of that, because fellow passengers had complained. So we know this is still ongoing and continuing, but what I want to discuss is kind of the subtle aspects of discrimination and profiling that happen at airports every single day. And this is regarding TSA security policies for Sikhs, and specifically for Sikh turbans. Now I'm just going to relay a small example so that you can see what a Sikh individual has to go through each time they go through airport security. So imagine, put yourself in my shoes. Imagine walking to the airport. You get into the security line, you come up to the metal detector. Before you even enter the metal detector, TSA agents are making motions, pointing at you, asking for a male assist. This is even before you've entered the primary threshold of security. They've already segregated you. They've already pointed you out. Now you enter that threshold. There is no trigger, there is no alarm. Yet you're automatically told to stop. You're told to focus, told to move forward into a glass box where you're held for potentially 5 to 10 minutes. Now imagine being in a glass box. Imagine being a bearded, turbaned Sikh American, knowing that the media, knowing that your fellow flying passengers will mistake you. What will they mistake you for? What do we see in our media? Turbans are always associated with what? Extremism, terrorism. So you're automatically suspect when you're in that glass box. And since Sikhs are mandatorily screened 100% of the time, who ends up in those glass boxes? It's us. So when the flying public always walks by, who are they seeing? They're seeing Sikh Americans being profiled every single day. Now you get out of that glass box. What do they make you do? They make you pat down your turban. They make you do a chemical hand swab. Why? They're doing it because they're checking for trace explosives, chemical explosives. Now, why are one community being singled out? Shouldn't everyone be going through ETD if they're concerned about explosives? Can explosives only be hidden in turbans? Is that the only place where you can hide IEDs or explosives? If you pass through those thresholds, then only can you move forward and go to your flight. But what has already happened? I mean, just a small example. When I was in one of those glass boxes, I had a little girl who just stopped and started looking at me. I know what this is doing to her. I can see how those ideas are forming in our mind. This young, innocent person. So the danger of this is when you have profiling by federal government, it reinforces negative stereotypes that are perpetuated by the media, and it sanctions the mistreatment of minority communities in society. And we have seen that. Mr. Rajinder Singh had spoken about hate crimes. This is what we're talking about. Profiling in airports don't happen in a vacuum. It permeates society and it affects us and affects the Sikh community. We have 5 potential hate crime cases in the last 8 months. Bullying in our schools is at a rate of 60 to 70%. We have employment discrimination cases almost on a daily basis. And why is this? It's because our government is sanctioning the fact that these individuals are suspect, that there is something wrong with having a religious identity, that it's something wrong to maintain and preserve one's faith. For policy reasons, what we've tried to do is address 2 issues. One is to say, is there a least restrictive means to doing this type of EDT testing to segregate out the Sikh community? One potential avenue is using bomb-sniffing dogs. We know if anyone travels on Amtrak, that is an effective mechanism that's being used currently. Why do you have to subject an entire community to additional levels of screening when you can easily have a bomb-sniffing dog at the point, at the security checkpoint, and it would be effective for all Americans, not just Sikh Americans? A second part is to remove those glass boxes. These are completely dehumanizing for any community, for any individual to be in. It can never be a good thing to be placed in a box. So what we're doing and what we're seeing is that there is some movement, some traction in removing those glass boxes because they serve no security function. Because as we know, not all checkpoints have those boxes. Not all airports have those boxes. And I know my time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hadseep. Now we have NG Abdul Qadir, who will be giving her remarks.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to stand while I adjust. I just have an easier time speaking when I stand. First, I want to thank SAALT and me for making this forum possible. It's a really important event, and I want to thank all of you for attending it this morning. I also want to commend the community members who addressed us this morning. I think it takes incredible strength and courage to share their individual stories with us, and I feel that I have a new perspective on some of these issues just from listening to them. So thank you for sharing your accounts with us. I was asked to speak briefly about the principle of religious freedom. The United States was founded on the principle of religious freedom, which we are fortunate that this country does not have a national religion. It is not a Christian country. It is not a Jewish country. It is not a Muslim country. It's not an atheist country. We are free, all of us, each of us, to subscribe to any religion or no religion as we see fit. This principle is enshrined in the most basic legal doctrine that this country was founded upon, which is the Constitution. It is the First Amendment of the Constitution. And it's not something we should take for granted. There are many countries around the world that do not have rule of law, that do not have strong legal systems the way that we do. And so that means that we have a responsibility as citizens, as residents of this country, to enforce our legal rights. This morning, we listened to Mr. Yasser Abdul Qadir, and I have to mention that there's no relation between us because we share the same last name. But we listened to his experience and his community's experience and the struggle that they are currently enduring in terms of trying to build a house of worship, that they simply can peacefully practice their religious beliefs there. But principles of religious freedom are actually much broader. They encompass the right to wear a headscarf, to wear a skull cap, to wear a turban to school, on an airplane, or at work. They encompass the right to pray while you're at work, regardless of whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Sikh, you're Hindu, or whatever religion you may believe in. And so for these reasons, as I said, I think that when we feel that we're being discriminated against, in whatever context, whether it's an educational context, an employment context, in the context of an airport, we need to stand up for our rights. And we do so not just for ourselves, but we do so for every other person that comes after us. Many of the religious accommodation policies, for instance, that's Transportation Security Administration, which is the government agency which is tasked with protecting us at our nation's international airports, were developed after September 11th as a result of individuals like you who stood up and said, listen, this is not fair. I have a right to wear a headscarf. I have a right to wear my turban. And I have a right to board this plane and not be subject to unfair discrimination or scrutiny as a result of that. And as a result, if you actually go to TSA's website, you will see their policies of religious and cultural accommodation. That is a result of individuals and citizens, ordinary individuals and citizens just like you, who felt that something wrong had happened and they want to stand up for themselves. But by doing so, they made a change that positively impacts all of us, and that we now enjoy those rights as a result of the stand that they took. Some of the recommendations that I want to make, that is sort of a reaction that we can have when something unfortunate happens, like a bias incident or discrimination, but there are also proactive measures that we can take. And I just want to leave that with you because I do believe in empowerment. I don't like playing the role of the victim, and I don't like encouraging community members to play the victim. I think when something unfortunate happens, we can turn it into a positive incident through empowerment. And so, for instance, we heard from Mr. Abdul Qadir about the unfortunate experience that Al Falah Center is having. And what I heard from that is a mayor who was making a proposal to change some zoning ordinances. And I heard about the importance of government officials in that process. And what that left me with is the importance of having diversity in all branches of government. It is incumbent upon us to become the mayors of our community, to sit on zoning boards, to sit on other government